Yep, it's been weird. Yeah, so it took longer to make the next video than I expected. We actually hit a huge flood right after my last video. Kind of caught me off guard, took me off my game a little bit, but that took a lot of resources, had some deployments, different things going on all over our state. And now we're back and it's still weird. So I wanted to go ahead and answer some questions. I received some questions in the past. I've received a bunch of questions in the past and never really brought them to the channel. And this is really one of the easier ways to answer questions. So I'm going to jump right into it. So the very first question, I've got to go ahead and address this one because this comes from a really good friend of mine named Michael Taylor. He commented on a Facebook post, which I just posted. If you want to go ask questions, I said, hey, if anybody has questions to ask, I'll try to answer them on the YouTube channel. And of course, the first comment is from a buddy of mine that says, why are engine nerds always so jealous of truck guys? Well, I have a couple answers for that, Michael, and I think you may be in denial. Do you remember this? Or maybe this? Yeah, so if y'all don't know, wearing the double auger, the Filson jacket is a huge engine nerd thing, but he knows it's cool. He tries to be all hipster with his denim. That's what we call them, denim truckies, so we say that they're hipster. But other than that, I've learned a ton from him. It's obviously joking. But so Michael's with Dixie Firemanship. A lot of y'all have heard of them. They're a group of instructors. I've helped teach with them before. Great group of guys, really from all over the country. But we've been talking even before all this crazy stuff happened. We actually talked about doing some online discussion type stuff through Zoom or YouTube Live, Facebook Live, that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in that, let us know. So if you want to ask some questions, there's actually several ways of doing that. So there's a few different ones I'll go over really quick. One is Instagram. So a lot of people don't even know that I'm on Instagram, but give me a follow. It's at FF Matt Hinkle. I'll put the little tag down here. So you can follow me there. I was asking on the Instagram stories, hey, give me your questions if you want. You can go ahead and reply to that if you want to today. Also, Facebook, Box Alarm Training on Facebook. Put a comment up or a post up and looking for comments on that for any questions. And then there's also on the website a contact form. So it's actually a form on the website for webcasts. You can answer or ask questions there straight into the form. We'll get to them as soon as we can. So this question actually came through the website, and this was a little while back. This is a really kind of deep question, pretty difficult. I'm going to do my best to answer it. But basically it says, hey, Matt, enjoyed your videos. I thought that would be you would be a good person to get advice from if you have time. There's probably going to be an opening in the next year or two for a training officer position where I work. I've helped with recruit schools, and I'm also an adjunct instructor with a state academy. Could you give me some advice on prepping myself to compete for that position, classes, interview, practice, books, etc.? Really, whatever you can think of is appreciated. Thanks a lot. So boy, that is a topic that is really deep. So I think the best way to answer that is divide that topic of how do you prepare to be a training officer in two different directions. One being the formal training and the other one being the informal training. And I'm going to focus a lot more on that informal training. But first, let's get through the formal part first. This person that asked a question, I'm sure a lot of you are the same way. He's already teaching, which is fantastic. You want that teaching experience. Most likely, if he's already an adjunct instructor, he's already got a lot of the classes that really are required classes. So instructor or officer, different type things like that. So some of the formal classes, definitely instructor courses. Most people break those down into instructor 1, 2, and 3. Instructor 1 is your first learning to be an instructor. That's the first instructor training that you're supposed to have as a company officer, really to help teach your crew. Instructor 2 is really the person that can develop their own courses. So making their own presentations, doing their own courses. And then in instructor level 3, which is really what a training officer role is supposed to be, is somebody that does training program management. So definitely knock out those required courses. But to be honest, once you have those requirements, if you're trying to compete for a training officer position within your department, those people already know who you are and what you do. So it's not really like taking those courses separates you from anybody else. They already know you. So what are you doing to help compete locally within that department or agency or surrounding departments or agency if that's what you're interested in? So another one is degree programs. And I'm not the type of guy that says you got to have a college degree to be a training officer or a chief. You don't. But it doesn't hurt. It's very valuable. And anyone that tries to downgrade that and say like, no, we're firefighters, we work with our hands, you clearly don't know how the fire department works. So you have to be able to understand budgeting and training. Because if you don't have all of that, if your chief can't do that very good, then your firefighting is going to suck, because you aren't going to have the resources you need to do your job. So that's a really important thing that I think a lot of people like to kind of push it aside like it's nothing, but that's really valuable stuff. More formal training is big one is from the National Fire Academy. If you're really trying to get into the executive level or administrative functions, the National Fire Academy offers several different tracks which are really, really good for that. One is training program management. That is specifically for training officers. That's really kind of geared around training and curriculum and how to manage a program. The other two ones are more long-term programs, and that is the Managing Fire Officer program and the Executive Fire Officer program. Those are big ones. Those are tough. I did the EFO program. I just graduated like a year and a half ago or so, something like that, last year. That's a really, really deep program that helps you understand those critical thinking and decision-making skills and things like that are really important at that level. All right, so let's move on to the informal stuff, which is really the stuff that I really want to focus on, because all of that other stuff on the formal side, those are all things that can help you for sure, but the informal stuff is really kind of what separates you from other people. And I think the very first thing that we need to talk about is that if you want to be a training officer, you have to understand that you're trying to enter the executive staff or the administrative staff, and that is kind of separate from operational skill sets, but at the same time, it's a huge piece of the same team. You know, it's the leadership component of the department. So having leadership skills and traits is massively important in that arena. So I think when you're trying to compete for that position, you have to let the leadership of the department understand that you're willing to work for the department as a leader, not just somebody that can teach classes or somebody that's really good at rope rescue or really good at engine work or truck work. That's not what a training officer is about. A training officer is more about training the entire department. So one thing that I kind of went back on when I was younger, of course, a lot of you that watch this channel are kind of the same way. You're going after those classes because you're a diehard training type person. And a lot of people call us the 5%ers or the 10%ers. The 5 or 10% of the department that really kind of goes out to get more training from other people and really, really progressive in the training methods. The problem, there's a couple of problems that you run into with that. One is if you're the 5 or 10% that are doing that, then the other 90 to 95% in the department are not doing that. And to try to be a training officer, if you're going to try to sell that 5% to the 95%, it's extremely difficult. So you have to recognize really quickly that what you want to do is not what everybody else wants to do. And I understand the argument. People will say, well, they just need to get up and join in or they fall behind. Nope, that's not how it works. I'm sorry. That's just not the reality. Your job has to bring the entire department up, not divide the department and split it between the 5% and the 95, because your department will fall apart like that. You will not have good training. So you have to be able to convey the message that you're a balanced training officer that understands the strengths and weaknesses of the entire organization and how best to address those, because going out and chasing down firemanship type stuff in the 5% category, while that's extraordinarily valuable, doesn't recognize all of the capability gaps of the organization. That includes all hazards. You know, that's stuff that you really have to look at, all these different avenues that need to be there to encompass a full training program. So a huge skill set that I really took from Executive Fire Officer program is that you have to be able to understand the differences in between technical problems and adaptive challenges. There is a really good book on this called Leadership on the Line by Heifetz and Linsky. That book is really the core curriculum of the EFO program, and it's trying to let you understand that there is a very distinct difference between a technical problem and an adaptive challenge. And I'll probably go into that a lot more in another video because that gets really deep. But as a training officer, you're going to be a problem solver. You're going to be somebody that has to recognize the problem, but then also offer solutions to that problem. And having the ability to understand what type of problem it is and how to go about answering those questions or finding solutions is really, really important. So that's a really good read if you're interested in it. It's a little more textbooky or a little more higher education style book. And then another book that I would highly recommend reading, which tons of fire service guys have read, or audiobook. I love listening to audiobooks. I'm not a big fan of reading text. It's just not my thing. But really, really, really good book is Jocko Willink's Dichotomy of Leadership. That's a great one. You know, former Navy SEAL. And he goes through basically the balance of leadership, or the dichotomy of leadership. And that kind of is what the book is all about, understanding that you have to balance both sides to be an effective leader. You can't lean all the way one side like a lot of us do. I'm a firemanship type guy. I love that kind of stuff. But you have to balance it, because if you don't, the organization doesn't succeed. So that's a huge one to recognize. That's a great book, and I highly recommend it. So another thing to really think about is, you know, you're going to go through a process to be a training officer, testing probably, you know, all that stuff. They already know who you are. It's not like you're showing up to an organization that doesn't know you and you have to introduce yourself. They already know who you are. They already know what you've done. They've already know your accomplishments, your work ethic, all that kind of stuff. So when it comes to the interview process, don't worry about that stuff. You want to explain to them things that they don't know about you, or answer questions in a way that shows that you're prepared for the next step. So things that I would recommend on that is be prepared to explain your leadership philosophy, how you think that you have prepared yourself for that position, how you think you're going to be able to satisfy the needs of the organization in its entirety as part of the administrative staff, as part of the team that is leading the department, not the somebody that's like, oh, I found all these problems you have wrong. Let me show you how to fix them. That's not a good way to go into the process. You need to really show your strategic plan, or what your solutions may be, and what your leadership philosophy is. So if you've kind of defined your leadership philosophy and you've kind of defined your strategic plan, you're showing that you're prepared for the next level, or the leadership level of that department. So within the strategic goals and your plans, I think I would really try to project that I've done my homework and I'm ready to serve. I'm ready to be a part of the leadership of the organization, and that I have this ability because I've worked harder than other people. You know, basically I've put it out there. They know your work ethic, and basically you just have to show to an interview panel that this is something that I'm familiar with. I've prepared myself. I have lots of information from different sources, but stay away from this is what we're doing wrong and I want to fix it stuff, because people don't like to hear that, unfortunately. I know that's kind of the reality of things, but that stuff you'll address down the road. You really just want to show that you're willing and able, and that you're prepared. Other than that, I know that was a little long-winded, but that is a deep, deep question. If you want to ask questions, like I said, go to the website. You can fill out the little form there, submit questions. You can go to Facebook, or you can go to Instagram, and you can send in the questions. We got some more coming up, so I already have a few other questions I'm looking to answer. So anyway, hit the like button. I know you always don't, so do that. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and see you in the next video.